Thanks for coming along. Thanks for another day here in the book club. We're still reading a book, TDJ's book, Don't Drop the Mic. And we're getting close to the end of it. We should be done with it by this month, March, thereabout. And we'll go on to the next book, Cleopatra's Riches. Not read it before. It's one of my new books, my new collections, but it promises to be a good one. I'm looking forward to sharing from this. Anyone that knows I love talking about money. I love money. So I look forward to that. In the meantime, we're going to go and continue here with our present book, Don't Drop the Mic. And we're on to the last part of the book, which is part 5. Just talks about the meal itself, the message itself, you know. We've talked about everything about giving the message. We're now going to the real thing, the message itself, right? So that's what we're going to be sharing on as we go through part 5. And the first one we're going to take from it talks about the recipe for the message. How do I get a recipe on how to put everything together to deliver the message, right? And let me bring up my slides here. I'm going to give me 2 seconds and I'm going to bring up the slides here and we can share from it. So let's go sharing. I probably already turned it off. So let's bring that up. All right. So I'm going to go to basic. We have that. All right. So you should have been seeing my slide right now. And I'm going to go on to slide number 1. All righty. So let's see if we can make this a bit bigger. All righty. So same book we're reading. And I'm going to still try and make this slightly bigger here. All righty. So on to part 5, like I said, talk about the meal and the message, right? And we'll start with this quote here by T.D. Jakes in the book. It talks just talking about recipe, food, and all of that. You know, he loves to cook. So it talks about when you're cooking, obviously you need both the recipe and you have to have the ingredients that the recipe is referring to, right? One thing is the recipe talks about how to put the different parts together, right? And you need to have those parts to put together, right? And so just in a sense relates to what we might call the art and the science of communication, right? There is a science to communication, which might be the recipe. You can call the science of communication your recipe, how to put different parts together to get the message you're trying to communicate, right? There's also what we call the heart of communication, right? Which comes from your heart, right? The science comes from your head. The heart of communication comes from your heart. It now becomes you, right? Being expressed in your communication, right? So going on to chapter 13, just talking about the recipe for today, right? And here also is another quote from T.D. Jakes. It talks about the recipe for creating a flavorful communication requires both directions and knowing when requires following directions and knowing when not to. All right, that's important. You know, when I'm a communicator, so in all of this, I'm trying to share my own life also. You know, when I communicate, like right now I'm communicating with you, I'm pretty much not following any recipe. I'm just communicating my life, my person to you, right? What I try to do in communication is I first of all become the message, right? That's why I must, like my mentor would say, be a student of people and life and people. That's what I am. I absorb everything around me. I observe things that are going on around me, and I try to understand what's going on around me. I look at people, I study people, right? As well as also, you know, a deep thinker into all of that and getting understanding of from all of that. right? All of that makes me who I am, right? I've also gone through experience of life also. And I try to make sense from my experience of life also. And I get to read a lot also, right? Because for me to be able to communicate, I have to first of all become the communication, right? That for me is the way it goes. Now there's some things I know about communication that comes to bear even as I begin to share, and those begin to be some guidelines, as it were, some boundary conditions, because they help me understand, how whatever I'm saying is being received on the other side. They also help me in such a way that I ensure that whatever I am saying, I'm not just talking to myself, right? But that whatever I'm saying, I'm passing the right message across to you hearing me, right? So those science recipe, in a sense, help and guide, right? But it's not something that I'm always conscious of, because I've become the recipe myself, right? I know the recipe, but I've not just put it in my head. I've allowed it to become my being, my person, right? And that's where you need to get to be an excellent communicator, right? It's not just putting things in your head, right? You gotta let it, as it were, uh, soak into your being, right? That's what we typically would say concerning anything. For an amateur, you learn how the science, the law, the guidelines, and all of that. But then you cannot stay an amateur all your life. You want to build expertise in anything, right? After learning the ways, the guidelines, and all of that as an amateur, to become a professional, then you learn how to even play with the boundaries, right? In knowing the risk you are exposed to, because you want to extend the limits of your communication to get to even a higher level than just the ordinary amateur level, right? Guidelines are pretty much for the amateur level, but there's a way you can play around with those boundary conditions to get a new outcome, a new result, right? And we can talk more about that later. Let's just go on. I'm just going to go on to slide number 6 here, right? And this book has been written by T.D. Jakes along with someone that works on the seminary, Thomas. I'll get you the name later. I didn't stick in my head, and he pretty much wrote this chapter, probably wrote most of this part that we're into. And he was just talking from a seminary theological angle, talking about what makes a message for a preacher. And that's what one of the things he's quoting here from Andrew Resta. It says, every preacher has a constellation of cultural, family origin, ecclesiastical systems that raise and develop the preacher from the earliest stages of life, right? Such systems include categories of genes, ethnicity, social, economic locations of neighborhood, class, all of that. The simple gist in all it's talking about is that your upbringing, right, affects your message, affects your delivery, right? Your experience of life affects your delivery, right? And I love that. That's the example that comes to mind for me. It's Obama, right? As it was going to contest, it was pretty public in accepting his origin. He's in accepting where his father came from, right? He did not deny the fact that he had a Kenyan heritage bloodline, right? Rather, he accepted it because he knew that affects who he is as a person, and that would affect how he carries himself. So he understood where it's coming from, so that his background does not catch him by surprise. He's able to use that rather than his background using him, right? And that's what we all need to do, right? You have to settle with your past so that you can use your past, not your past becoming an idol or hindrance to whatever it is you want to do in life. Hey, Han, you're welcome. Good to have you.
Thank you.
Awesome. How was your week?
Okay.
Awesome. I'm happy to hear. All right, so we're in chapter 13 right now. So, and I'm here on slide 8. And you've not missed much. The whole chapter is just talking about we're in part 5, which talks about how to prepare the meal, how to prepare the substance of the message you're trying to deliver, right? And in this chapter, it talks about the recipe, the way of doing it, right? It kind of uses an allegory of a chef, of a cooking, right? Where you have a recipe and ingredients you want to put together. The recipe tells you how to put the ingredients together to get the meal you're trying to get. So here we're just talking about what the recipe that what tells you how to put the ingredients together, and starting from here, just talking about the fact that your upbringing affects the way you communicate, right? Like we've talked earlier on, where people think that you are shouting when you're just talking at a normal level, right? It's just because of the way you grew up. It has made you who you are, and it affects the way you communicate, right? So to be a good communicator, you have to first of all be at home with that. That should not never be an excuse from you growing, but you have to be at home first of all with it before you can then begin to adjust it, because you can actually change the tone of your voice if it's been an hindrance in your communication, and to the particular audience you're always communicating with. You cannot give the excuse that it's my upbringing, my upbringing. No, being the communicator, you are the one to change, right? Not the people to necessarily accept you, right? Because you are the one that wants to reach out to them. So you then begin to learn how to make some adjustment to your communication so that you can reach the people you are supposed to reach. Are we together on that?
Yes, we are.
Yeah, right. Great, great. So, but then for you to be able to make the adjustment, you have to understand, first of all, why am I the way that I am? Why do I talk the way that I do? Why do I have this speech that I have? Why do I have this tone that I have? Because until you understand it, you cannot work on it, right? So, and I just given an example of Obama, right? When he was going to contest for presidency, he was very open about the fact that his father comes from Kenya, and even went and visited Kenya as he was starting to campaign. He understood something a lot of people don't understand. Until you settle with your past, you cannot have mastery over your present and your future. To get mastery over your future and your present, you must settle with your past. You must accept it. You must not deny it. It happened. It happened. It did not happen to you naturally. It happened for you. So you have to understand it so you can gain all that it represents for you, and you can use it rather than it using you. Right? When you have accepted it, and you can then use it to help you in your present and your future. Right? There's no use denying it. Oh, I'm not from Kenya. Oh, it's my mother's heritage. Oh, blah, 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 blah. When you do that, you're going to be a failure, because the lion you don't address today will be in your way tomorrow, right? So going on to the next slide, and here we're just then talking about TD Jakes, being a Black person and trying to describe what kind of heritage he has and what kind of influences the way he speaks, right? It'll be different for different people, right? For a white person, it probably won't be exactly the same. For a Caucasian, for an Asian, a Latino, it might be slightly different. So we all are influenced by the way we grew up. However, it's not supposed to be an excuse. You're just supposed to understand it enough to be able to gain mastery over it. We can also learn from other cultures, things that we see that we can use to better our message, right? So it's not as if that we're prisoners of our upbringing. We're not. It's a matter of understanding it so you can gain mastery over it, right? So here we're just giving an example, of say what entails in Black preaching, and given an example of TD Jakes, how it has affected it, right? The origin of Black preaching comes from all the stories, that people have heard, right? There's oral story of slavery brought from Africa, the experience of slavery itself, Then came the message of hope, how to survive in it and live another day. I mean, all of that affects, the way people preach, right? And in just talking about that, that it's not all just about the emotions alone, right? But the real thing about it that comes from a Black preaching is the fact that we've gone through so much pain, and that pain influences the way we sing, the way we preach. So that's why you see there's a uniqueness to people that sing it in South Africa because of the pain of appetite. Appetite. The same thing goes for the slaves in slaves also. That it comes from the pain of their heart, right? And we all have different pains also that might have nothing to do with our upbringing, whatever it is, the experience of life we have. It all affects us. It affects the way we sing, the way we talk, We should not be necessarily be prisoners to it, but our understanding of it can help us in being able to use it, in being able to gain mastery in the way we communicate. Hey, Tobar and Chidi, you're welcome. Toba, you're welcome. Chidi, you're welcome.
Thank you, sir. I'm sorry, I forgot. I'm in Port Harcourt, so I just remembered.
Hey, you were busy taking periwinkle. Oh. Sorry, I should have reminded you myself. Yeah, next time I will.
It's not fair. You are 99.
Yes, now I have to. I've eaten so much burger, so now I need to make sure it's native that I'm going for.
I'm very jealous because I've not been to Nigeria in 20 years.
Enter the next flight. We'll take care of you.
Yeah, so they give you fisherman okra soup. Yeah. So you're all welcome. Just talking about onto chapter 13 of the book today, and just talking about out the recipe, how to put the different ingredients of their communication together, and just talking about the importance of your upbringing. Right, our upbringing affects everything about us. Right, but should not necessarily hold us prisoners. Right, it's important to understand my upbringing. You supposed to understand why I talk the way I talk, why I have the pitch that I have, why I have the tone that I have, right? Because when I understand it, then I can begin to use it. I can adapt it, right, to be able to achieve what I want, right? I'm not going to stop being me, but my understanding of me helps me to gain mastery over the thing that I need to do, right? And I gave a typical example of Obama, as he was beginning to contest for presidency. He visited Kenya, right? He openly accepted his linkage to Kenya. He was not like, I'm America, I'm not Kenya. And in his ability to embrace that part of his history helped him. He was able to use it to his own advantage. He didn't allow, in embracing it, he did not become a prisoner of it, but he embraced it to be able to gain mastery over it, right? And that's important for us all, right? We need to settle the accounts of where we're coming from, because until we do that, we cannot gain mastery over it in our today and in our tomorrow, right? Go on to slide number 9 here. And pretty much the summary of the whole chapter, just talking about how to enhance your own recipe, how to enhance the way you put your own message together, anytime you're communicating, and it says the first thing is that you need to be a student of communication, right? And be able to connect to the gifts of your heritage, right? But you have to be a student. You have to continue to understand and to learn how to better communicate, pass your message across. Emphasizes the fact that none of us dropped out of the sky. We all came from somewhere. We all grew some way, which affects us. Part of it might be the way our parents spoke to us. I mean, a lot of people are not able to talk because they grew up in a place where you had to be seen, not heard. So their voice was taken away from them. See, someone like Maya Angelou grew up like that. For a certain period, she was dumb. I mean, she grew up in an environment where it was that she was seen are not heard. She internalizes so much that she actually stopped talking. She grew for years in her life. She was like dumb. She was not talking, right? And different therapies and all of that. And you see how she came up to be a very outstanding voice at the end of the day, right? But events of our life, all of that affect us. So we need to understand in what way it's affecting us so that we can gain mastery over it, right? Number 2 says that you need to become a student of preaching. That means that you're not just a master of the way of your comfort zone, of what you are used to, what is culturally easy for you. You can also learn from other cultures, right? Maybe because you might not know when you're going to need it. Maybe you might not just be the only Yoruba who are going to communicate with your life. You might have to communicate with someone from other cultures. Your ability to cross the boundary to understand their own ancestry, why they speak the way they speak, right, would help you to be able to communicate your message to them. You have a message, but that message is useless if you cannot communicate it with them. You cannot speak it to them in the way they will understand, right? So it doesn't matter if you are the best speaker in the world, you have all the message in the world. People cannot get what you are saying. You're useless, right? So you need to be a student of communication. The word here is used, you say preaching, and it can affect any other thing. It doesn't have to be preaching alone. Key things you're trying to communicate, you're trying to pass a message across, right? So you need to understand the people you're communicating with so that you can be able to meet them where they are and not be speaking over their head, right? Number 3 says that you must find and articulate sources of hope in your own soul, right? Like I say all the time, the only reason, spiritually speaking, I'm a teacher is because of the troubles I went through in my life, right? Coming to Christ, that I had a whole lot of misunderstanding, lack of understanding, and the people around me could not help me, right? So I went through a dark period of my life. And through that dark period, I told the Lord I would help other people not to go through that. So if you see me the way I talk, that is because I made that promise to the Lord, right? I said I would help other people not to go through the same kind of darkness that I went through. So that's why I break things down. I'm not the one that will speak over your head. I won't use big grammar or big Greek because of where I'm coming from, because of the pain of my own life. That is why I speak the way I speak. I don't speak the way I speak because I want to. I speak it because of the pain of my heart, the pain of my journey. And I made a commitment that I will help other people not to go through what I went through, right? And that is where I come from. That's why I talk the way I talk. That's why I carry myself the way I carry myself. That's why I don't follow the crowd, right? Because I have a vision, I have a commitment, I have a call, and you need to find that in your own self, and the scripture here that was quoted along here is that place where the Bible says that we should encourage other people with the same comfort other people with the same comfort where you have been comforted, right? Put yourself in the people's shoe. It's like the Bible talks about that Jesus had compassion on them because they were like sheep without a shepherd, right? That was empathy. He could see himself walking in their own shoes, right? So he had that empathy, compassion came, and I was able to relate with them as someone who is there going through the same pain they're going through. And that helps your message, And the last one, it says that you should remember that the best recipes carefully blend substance and style to create a unique communication that educates, just being able to mix things up together. They always about the vision, the end goal must always be that the people will leave with the right message. The people will leave with what you are trying to communicate. The people will leave with the action you are trying to get them to take, right? That has to be your end goal. Now, what you now do to get that end goal is now comes to the skill, the craft, the mastery of your game. right? And we'll learn, we'll grow in it. Like you can see here, we've been doing this book club. I'm learning also our best to put the slides together, our best to talk. You know, it's not the same way we've done it. You know, this is our third book. But each time I'm preparing and I'm thinking about how best is it to arrange this, you know, to be able to meet you that come and also people that get to go through it when it's there on YouTube. So that's going through my mind all the time. I'm getting better at it. I'm trying different things out, you know, just trying to get the result that we want to get out of this. You know, it's not a straight jacket. It's a continuous, never-ending improvement process. Just trying to achieve the aim that we've set, you know, for all of this. All right. Any question for me before we go through the questions? And any question for me?
None from my side.
None from your side. Great. Thanks, Toba. All right. Chidi, any question for me?
None from me.
None for me. All right. Great. All right. Let's go to. All right. Great. You know, so here study one says, where do you see similarities between crafting a message for communication and preparing a meal? You know, do you see any similarity in you preparing for a communication, a message, you know, and how can you use any similarity for you between the two? Who's a good cook? And that's easy for you now. Yeah, the cook here. I don't know how good Toba and Chidi are in cooking. They're probably better than me.
You'll be surprised on how good they are. So
I know. Yeah, minus me. All my cooking ability left when I got married.
What was the question?
I mean, do you see any correlation between you preparing to have a communication with someone, tell someone, maybe a presentation or something? How do you see any correlation with you cooking? You know, planning your cooking and putting your ingredients together. Do you see any parallel between the two?
Yeah, but I mean, when we're cooking, you have to go to the store, buy your stuff, right? So you have to prepare, right? Yes. You have to boil your protein. So yeah, if you don't prepare, you don't just get up and just cook. I mean, like if for your family, you're thinking, okay, what can I feed my family today? So it takes a lot of preparation to do that.
Preparation, yeah, that's important. Only yesterday, I confused my wife while she was cooking while we're talking, and she ended up putting the bitter leaf into the wrong place, you know, where she didn't plan to, you know, just because our wonderful husband was confusing her, you know. So yeah, that could happen also when you're communicating, right? You end up saying the wrong thing in the wrong place or the right place. And obviously the people might get confused by your message. So yeah. So and do you see any difference between the two? Oh, and I'm supposed to take this off. Yeah, let me just move on to the next one. That's probably the easy one.
I have a little noise.
Go ahead.
Run to the store to grab blueberries for my baby, because if not, we're not going to have peace today.
All right, go. All right, let's see that.
But I'm going to put my.
All right, great. All right, so going on to the next one, what have you appreciated most from your experience? You know, it's talking about African American preaching. Yeah, we probably see some of that. Hey, anybody wants to talk about what you've seen? I know, Toba, what you had some issues with TD Jakes, you know, from what you've seen. Is there anything about the preaching that really has not attracted you other than now seeing the book? Anything you want to share? Tell me anything you want to share about what your thoughts are on African American preaching, like both the pros and the cons. What you like, what you don't like. All right, while we're waiting for Toba, Chidi, you have anything you want to say on that? You live in Florida anyway. I guess you go to a Nigerian church.
Oh
So
no,
probably
yeah,
don't get exposed.
I don't really have anything. But if you're talking about church, I go to a Igbo church in US. You know, I remember when I used to work in Victoria. I need to go. There are several within Beach North, a whole lot of them. But to be honest with you, the Oyibos don't worship like us, and they worship free-mindedly, you know, without any of these things. So that's why I like their way, and unfortunately, I will continue going to their church.
Yeah. So you have a problem with we are boisterous. We'll probably go off the message, main point. You know, we're dramatic. Or what else? What I think you don't like about us?
Not that I don't. What I basically meant there, you know, most times we think that this West or this Igbo, they're not. I tell you the truth, those people, they don't worship God with the kind of passion we do, but they are free-minded. Igbo is not going to help you because you're an Igbo, Yoruba, or Hausa. But I tell you, even our pastors, either in Nigeria or in US or everywhere, they still have that ethnic, you know, bias in what they do, and also the way they want to be seen as the God itself. I mean, to be seen in place of Jesus. Why Oyibo will tell you point blank that he is not, and he will not be, you know. So, and what would I say? I mean, fortunately enough, I mean, it has always been going to the S, and I can't, and it's okay, you know. It's not about money. When they talk to you, they talk about salvation, and it has to be salvation. Yeah. That's what I can say.
Yeah, I hear you. I mean, I know I've lived here in the U.S. When I lived in Bakersfield, I did attend different Caucasian churches, you know, and I prefer those, you know, even in Houston, right? We are in a Caucasian church, you know, in a sense, you know, so they have their pros and cons. Without people, maybe you get that community sense, you know, and it's just different, right? And for me, partly also is coming from Nigeria, I wanted something different from what I'm used to, you know. So yeah, they all have their pros and their cons.
Yeah, I think that's true also, because I mean, for when I was in California, I attended so I was in California. I partly attended a white church initially when I just got there. Then when I graduated from nursing school, I attended an African American church, and it's totally different, totally different. Then I went to Colorado, and I attended a white church. But now I do attend a I say part of Nigerian church, but my church is mostly young people, young couple who just started to who have young kids. But some of them are born here or came here when they were like 5 years old or 2 years old. So it's technical. It's more of, we're more Nigerians, which that more of us were born in Nigeria, or some of us our parents are Nigerians. So it's like a white church. It's like an American church, right?
Yeah.
So I've been to all of them, and they are different. The only thing I can say is that the only difference I can say, and they worship God differently. Yeah. And the only thing I can say is that in Nigeria we do have a community, and I know that sometimes not it has its own weakness.
Yeah.
But sense of community, you cannot find it anywhere else.
Absolutely.
You can't find it anywhere else, because we value relationships. I'm not saying that the white people do not value relationship, but there's relationship in that. Just like even your brothers and sisters, you have your own disagreement, and that's how life is. But the other thing that I've noticed is community. Community.
Yeah. Yeah.
relationship. You build relationship, and you can go visit each other. Nobody's gonna say, "Don't come to my house," blah blah. But in a white in other churches that I've been to, it's not like that. Even though
Yeah.
everybody has been nice to me, and we have built some kind of relationship there, but it's not like I keep in touch with all of them. No, some of them you don't keep in touch with anybody anymore. But if you go to a Nigerian church, you make lifelong relationship, and even though you
Yeah.
don't go to that church, it's I mean that's one thing I know, that it's Nigeria that we value relationship. So that's
Absolutely.
that's
I agree with you.
that's
I agree with you. I mean, in my church in Houston, we do have, we'll call it Africans in Lakewood, right? So we do have some kind of community amongst the Africans. We try to work out, being, and the church works that out. The church agrees with that, knowing the uniqueness, of where we come from, So yeah, I mean, we're all different. It's all based on our background, and we we need to respect that. I mean, every culture has its own plus and minuses. We don't you don't want to leave uh you don't want to leave one and just go to the other, because none is perfect, right? I mean, our Igbo people keep to time, they are disciplined, you know, but from a community standpoint, we might not get as much as we would get on our side. So, I mean, a perfect world is being able to get the pluses from there without leaving the pluses from where we're coming from, you know. I mean, some people get lost when they travel abroad. Like, I was just sharing about someone close to us, who is pretty lost, in the US, because expecting the mother to do some crazy things, which she would never do if she was in Nigeria, It's more like treating the mom like a normal white would treat their parents. And that's a taboo, where we come from, So, and they have its repercussion, because at the end of the day, you still come from somewhere, and someday somehow you'll go back there, So it's good to be able to get a right balance. Alrighty, I'm gonna move on. So the last one here says, how have you been shaped and refined as a communicator by the presence of pain? Anybody's been shaped by the pain that they've had in their lives? I'll give you my own example. You know, as your life experience shaped the way you talk. Anyone's going to take a bite at that, or we'll move on.
Well, I think that we are all changed all the time. I mean, it's a lifelong process, a lifelong uh I mean, you have to be willing to change. You have to be willing to
Absolutely.
adapt, like, right? Because change is
Mm-hmm.
constant, right? When you feel
Yes.
like, okay, I cannot change, then you're not going to grow. So,
Absolutely.
especially especially coming to the United States, or when anyone that travels outside the country, of
Yeah.
Nigeria, yeah, you are hit right away by the culture. That this,
Yes.
and I mean, I used to have a very low self-esteem in Nigeria. I mean,
Yeah.
nobody told me I was good. Your teacher told you, oh, go to art, go do art, so you can do.
Yeah.
There's no one that tells you, oh, you how good you are. Even your parents, even though
Yeah.
I mean, they believe in you, but they're not trained in the way where they say, oh,
To
you can
communicate
do,
it. Yeah.
yeah, you can communicate it and say, oh, you can go, you are good. So I grew up with a very low self-esteem about
Yeah.
myself.
Yeah.
When I came out here, my uncle's wife is African American, and she would take me out, right? She take me to, so she say, oh, say hi to them, say hi. So right now I'm changed. I never used to want to talk. I had low self-esteem, but now I'm different. I can go somewhere. I can communicate with somebody because she pulled it out of me. She's like, no,
Yeah. Yeah.
you have to say hi. You have to
Yeah.
come. You have to tell. You have to communicate back.
Yeah.
And so you be having an accent initially is a culture shock. It's a culture
Yeah.
shock because so you have to learn. You have to learn to say,
Absolutely.
you are different, yes, but I have to learn how to slow down because I speak fast. I have to learn
Yeah.
how to change the way that I pronounce some things, and
Yeah.
and it takes time. It takes time.
Yeah.
You being in the midst of people that don't
Yeah.
really technically look like you. It takes time for
Yeah.
you to get there. So I
Yeah.
feel like I've changed compared to what 20 years
Absolutely.
ago when I first came out here. So I'm different. I'm different. So
Absolutely.
I believe that I have changed. Yeah, my communication has improved.
Absolutely. And that's why you're coming to a place of rest. It's not as if you don't have the whole challenges you used to have. You have new challenges, no doubt, which is part of being human. The day you stop having challenges, it means that you're about to die, right? But you're going to have challenges, but it should not be necessarily be the old ones, because as you overcome the old ones, you have new ones, new heights, new devils, new challenges, and that's what God wants for us. God wants us to grow and become better, right? But not having to recycle the same year all over again, right? So great, yeah, yeah, I do agree with you. And a lot of us, it's a cultural thing, where we come from a place of low self-esteem, not because we come from a place where parents were used to abusing their children and saying that it will not be better for you, but that's not what they meant, right? But it's just what they learned. It's their language. They don't understand that it's a cause, or they understand the repercussion of it, but it's like a way of speaking, right? They're saying what they don't really want. Unfortunately, the child becomes that thing. And you wonder who did this to me? Is it the people in the village? No, you did it to yourself, right? But that's culture. That's the environment we grew up in. And we are learning to do better than what they do, you know. So yeah, that's part of change. I know people whose lives are marred, you know they could be better than what they are, but they're marred by those words, those pain scars of growing up. Not everybody outgrows it, because it takes a whole lot to rising up to life to do it. Not everybody does, and that's why you have some people that have mental sickness, because if you don't, you will tend to affect your mentality. you know yeah. Any other person wants to say something? All right, we're gonna move on from there then. And I mean, and that's really all. I'm gonna just stop there. Just to say that it seems like we're closed down in on reading this as the next book, Cleopatra's Riches. I know Chidi says he's been asking people around here in Nigeria trying to get it from the go slow. Han, it's easy for you to get it now. You can order it from Amazon.
Yeah, I get
Uh,
mine from. I already put it in my cart.
awesome,
Amazon.
awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's what we're going to read next as soon as we finish with this book, and it's talking about money like I suspected. So it's just going to talk about how we can gain the language around money. It talks about how we can be more comfortable relating with money. So it's talking about relating with money. So it's a money book, which is what I love. So I look forward to it. I look forward to spending time reading this book.
Did
Um,
you get yours already, Uncle?
yeah, I got mine. I got mine already.
Okay.
Yeah, I have with me here. So yeah.
What about Toba?
We're gonna. I doubt if Toba, you're gonna be on the lookout for the book. I know Chidi's already looking out. He's been asking. He's here to get where to find it. Obviously, if you can get, then you can get. So
Oh,
we'll be on the lookout. If I have someone coming, also, I'll see if I can get it for you.
okay.
Yeah. But Chidi is checking. If Chidi comes up with something, I'll let you know. Yeah, but it's going to be talking about money. Is that? Hope that's not a taboo for you. It's possible you don't need money, so I just wanted to find out.
You make me laugh this afternoon.
I was about to send you my account number. Maybe you should pay your salary to my account. All right. So that's just the book. Just introduce it. As soon as we finish this, we'll move into that. And then you can be thinking about, if you like a book that you think we can read, let's know. Otherwise, the next book I'm thinking of is the book talking about the power of silence. I do have a copy already, but it's in Houston. I'll see. I'll see. I'll do a quick read through it, but just eating it it might be a good book to read after this one on money. But if you have anyone else also that you're interested in that you like, just let me know. We can always do that. What this has done for me is it's helping me to read. Typically, I'm so busy that I can't believe I've read this book. See the thickness of book? I'm too busy to read it. But because
What
we
book
do
is
this, no, the one we're reading
What?
right now.
Oh yeah, it's so big. Oh,
It's so big,
I'm
but
so
you see, because
I'm so far I'm so far behind.
yeah, but because we do one chapter a week, I get to read one chapter a week, and I'm
Right.
forced because we have to have this time. So yeah, I've almost finished reading it. On a normal day, I'm too busy to read it. I would not have found time to stay on this book because I have so many things I'm doing. I'm just saying the benefit of our time together is like it's helping me to read.
Right.
I have a full bookshelf in Houston. I have a full bookshelf here of books, and I keep on buying books, but finding time to read it is
I
something
don't want
else.
to buy. I don't want to buy books anymore. I do the script, audio books.
Audiobook. I have audiobooks also. I only get to read audiobooks when I'm driving. Yeah, this COVID period, I've really driven. I spend more time at home. So when I'm at home, I have 1,001 things going on. I cannot stay reading a book or do audiobook. But I do audiobooks best when
Right.
I'm driving, especially when I'm doing a long distance. Yes, I get to do that. So I have audiobooks also. Yeah, but the problem with audiobooks is I cannot make those comments, take away a
Right.
quote, I have to go look for the book, to know if
Right.
I missed the way it was said, things like that. That's a challenge with
Right.
audiobooks for me.
Right.
Yeah. But it is good in finishing a book on time. I can just sit down and listen to it and really run
Right.
through the book. Yeah. Books are
On time.
good. All righty. So let me let you go. Have a great remaining of the day.
Thank you.
All right. Greet your husband for me.
I will.
All right. God bless you. Have a great week
Yes, bye.
also. All
Yes,
right.
sure.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.